everybody, this is Jen and I'm here for you guys with another Draw My Lifestyle advice video. I wanted to do this as a special treat for you guys because this past Friday Eric and I couldn't do our usual Friday night Google Live hangout. So I decided to make a video about finding your inner strength. Now I did one of these before about finding your true love and I illustrated the story of a man named, I forget what I named him. Anyway, that's in the video below, but this is Matthew. Now, of course, I changed all of the names around to protect the person's privacy because it is somebody's actual life. So here we go. I first started talking to Matthew at around 2005, I believe. I'm pretty sure that was the time frame. And I remember the first time that I spoke with him, he was very, nervous, anxious, a little neurotic. He was desperate. He was just not in a good state of mind. And he was very memorable to me because of that, because his anxiety was through the roof. He, unfortunately, had fallen absolutely crazy in love and obsessed with a girl named Linda. There's Linda. And she had broken up with him and she was dissing him, and for a while she toyed with his emotions. She was a very, immature, unstable girl. We'll say it like that. Anyway, so he was obsessed with her, and he spent a lot of time thinking what he did wrong, or why she broke up with him, what he could have done differently, and he was just in that why me moment. So, Matthew spent a lot of his time talking to different various psychics, and he was absolutely desperate to get Linda back in his life. So he would call them all and ask them questions like, is she going to come back? What is she thinking? Blah, blah, blah. And they told him that she was going to come back to him, and some of them told him to do crazy spells, like put an egg under his bed, different things like that. Well, he had spoken to a bunch of psychics, and he decided to call me, and I honestly, I never asked him why he called me, but he decided to call me one day, and I was the first person that told him no. And he was very kind of surprised that I said no, and he was also mad. I actually didn't realize when I was speaking to him on the phone that he was mad at me. He's very good at kind of shielding his emotions, and I didn't find out until later on that he told me he was actually very angry with me for telling him that she wouldn't come back, because all these other people were like, oh no, she's totally coming back. Anyway, a few months goes by and I hear from good old Matthew again. I love drawing these because I always draw my hair how it was at the time, and at the time it was super long. Anyway, so our good buddy Matthew decides to give me a call several months later, and that's when he told me that he was very angry with me that I said that she wasn't coming back. And I started talking to him, and he was giving me updates on his life. He'd finally kind of admitted to himself that she wasn't coming back. He still had feelings for her, he still wanted her, but he realized it's just not going to happen. And I don't know why I had trouble drawing him in that scene, but whatever. But anyway, so there is a very long and rich history to Matthew, and who he is, and why he's the way he is, how he got to be that way. I'm not going to go into that because it's not really pertinent to this situation, but just know that there's a lot that goes into a person's personality, and he was insecure, neurotic, depressed, moody, and unmotivated. That's how he saw himself, and that's how he, was feeling. He had a lot of issues in his life at the time that he started talking to me again. He was trying to pick up the pieces from his failed relationship and his heartbreak, and he had found himself a new girlfriend. And he was not happy with her because she was kind of mean and scary. I'm just saying she was. At the same time, his dad was trying to pressure him to be part of the family business, and he just was not feeling it at all. So he was feeling pressure on all sides. Nobody was really accepting him for who he was or asking him what he wanted, and he felt completely overwhelmed with all of these dominant people in his life. And that just made him more depressed and unmotivated and neurotic and moody and everything else. At this time, we began to talk to each other a lot. This was when I started to really kind of get to know him a little bit more, and I would say we became friends. He eventually decided, after a lot of thinking, that he needed to get this woman out of his life, the one who was being so bossy and dominant. So When he decided to break up with her, he didn't really have the courage to completely do it on his own. And after he had tried to break up with her through email a few times, a phone call was needed. So that night, he talked to her, and at the same time, I was talking to him. So he had two sets of receivers in his ear, me on one side, her on the other, and I kind of cheered him on and helped him get through that. And he did. He got through it, and after a few scathing emails from her, he was able to put her in his past. Once she was out of the picture, he started to feel a bit better. His mood lifted, and he was a little bit more funny and a little bit more optimistic. Not completely so, but it definitely made an impact getting her out of his life. What he didn't see about himself that I saw in him was that he was educated, articulate, relatable, artistic, musical, and I forget the last one. Funny, I think it was. I went by too fast. Eventually, he wanted to show me his guitar skills. He had talked to me about how he played guitar and wrote his own music, and I was really, impressed about this, and I thought it was really great. And he said he was going to play guitar for me. Well, I have to admit, you guys, I was kind of nervous because I knew that he was sensitive, and I was afraid, if he wasn't good, I was going to have to be honest with him. And I was hoping that he would be good so I just could enjoy the music and give him a compliment. That's really what I wanted. I think he might have been a little nervous too. And he was great. He was very talented. I was able to tell him how great he was. And it definitely was a lift. But even though he had all these talents, even though he had all these abilities, he just was lost. He didn't have passion in his life. Sometimes people can do a lot of things well, but if they don't feel a particular passion in one direction, it makes it very difficult. And he was trying to figure out where he was going and what he wanted to do with his life. He knew that he was an artist and he was talented at that. He knew that he was musical and he was talented with that. And he also knew that he could do the family business if he wanted to because he had the skills, he just didn't have the drive. And he went through a dark period of his life where he just really didn't know what he wanted, and it was hard for him. Throughout this period where he was trying to figure himself out, he dated a selection of different women. We're going to call them the girls. There was definitely a few different girls with different varying looks, personalities, and he had a bunch of kind of crazy relationships, and they were all very entertaining to me, but that's beside the point. But he never had the same problem breaking up with them or dealing with them that he did with that first one. Once he got over that first hump, he was good to go. So he was able to kind of get through them as much as he needed. But even though he had these relationships, he was still feeling depressed, and he was still feeling uncertain about what he wanted, and he was still feeling very lost about life and very afraid. Eventually, he met a woman, and we're going to call her Kim. And this woman came into his life, I think, at just the opportune time. He was so ready for change. He was so ready to kind of grow as a person, and he just needed inspiration. And she was somebody, unlike all his other girlfriends, who really invested time and energy into him. She believed that he could be more. She believed that he could do more. And I feel like that's kind of what he needed, was that little bit of push. And she helped change his chaotic life into structure. He told me all about Kim and how she was encouraging him to better his life, and he was excited about her, and he was excited about his future. For the first time since I've known him, he finally figured out what he wanted to do, and he had some direction in his life, and I was really happy and excited for him. So he ended up talking to his dad and having a very difficult conversation and letting him know that he wanted to drop out of the family business. It was a very difficult thing for him to face, but he did it. And sometimes you have to take courage. He decided to go back to school for something he passionately believes in, and he finally started to open up and live his own life and stop living for other people. His road was definitely not an easy one, but he's on a good path now. It wasn't easy for him to come from where he was to where he is now. It didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of courage. He had to be honest with people. He had to be honest with himself. And it wasn't an easy road, but he did it. And if he can do it, you can do it. He's more confident now. He's happier, and he has purpose and direction, which is huge in becoming a more positive person. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.